Welcome back to the Systemize Your Life YouTube channel. We have an incredible guest here with us today. We are diving into how to feed your littles. If you haven't already heard of the Feeding Littles brand, you might be following them on Instagram already. This is going to blow your mind. One of my favorite brands that helped me know how to feed my littles. We're going to talk all about how to back to school meal prep and plan with your kiddos. An incredible CEO, founder, mom, Megan McNamee here from the Feeding Littles brand. Let's dive in. This episode is amazing. So welcome, Megan, to the Systemize Your Life podcast and YouTube channel. The one thing that I ask every single guest is, what do you juggle on a regular basis? So if you want to answer that question and introduce yourself, we are so excited to have you.
Sure. That's a great question. Thank you for having me. I love that we're both in Arizona too.
Yeah.
So I'm Megan McNamee. I'm a dietitian and mom of two. And I think what I juggle is this constant, and maybe yours is more of a practical question, but I'm taking more of an emotional approach. I juggle this constant need to feel present with my kids while also getting all the things done and feel productive and successful in that way.
Yeah, that is the juggle.
And that's like my biggest worry and my biggest stress on any given day. And I sometimes feel like I'm doing it well and sometimes I don't. And it's really hard.
Yeah. Well, you've been juggling your work, which I'm super excited to talk about. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what Feeding Littles is? I would love to know how it came to be. And then I'm going to share a little bit about how I got introduced to your brand.
Awesome. Yeah. So Feeding Littles started really officially in 2014, which is a really long time ago. I was teaching baby-led weaning classes when nobody was teaching them. I was like one of the only people in the US to even talk about baby-led weaning back then. And I was teaching them in downtown Phoenix. And I started a Facebook group. And I didn't even know what to call it. I just called it Feeding Little. I don't even know why. I just called it Feeding Littles. Like out of nowhere, it just came into my brain. And I was like, this is what it's going to be called, Feeding Littles Group. And it wasn't even an idea for a brand or a company per se. It was just the name that I assigned a Facebook group. And everyone's babies were eating and eating well, and people were getting excited about it, and they were inviting their friends to join the group. But then everyone said, okay, they're toddlers now. What do we do? Because they're not eating like they used to eat. And I thought, well, I don't know. I'm a dietitian and I've worked in, peds my whole career, but I don't know how to get them to eat things. I only know what to serve them, And so at the time, a friend of mine introduced me to Judy, my now retired business partner. And she lived in Colorado, and we only met because my friend's son had been her client. She was a feeding therapist. And that little boy that she treated actually ended up passing away. So he kind of became our little angel guide of this whole project. And so our whole Feeding Littles it's just started because of a little baby. Honestly, that's where it came from, which is so crazy to think. And Judy, said, at first I was like, let's just have her consult with me and to make this toddler course. And she said, why don't we do it together? Why don't we make this a business together? And we said, what are we going to call it? Well, I already have this Facebook group and it's called Feeding Littles. So that's what we should call it. And from there, we created an online toddler course. And you'll appreciate this as a business owner. The first year, I think we made $16,000. And the second year, I think we made $17,000. So I really am glad I didn't look at those numbers until a few years later, because I would have been like, I'm not doing this anymore. This is crazy. Split between two people.
Yeah.
But once we figured out how to harness Instagram, and grow our brand in that way, that it became very easy to sell courses and get our message out there and have people learn from us like they would learn from us as private clients, but at a much more affordable and more accessible way. So it's been a really cool honor to do what we've done since then. We've written 2 books. We've, came out with an infant course. Actually, now it's 8 years ago. And we've revised our courses. We've had products and all this fun stuff. But the best thing is, as frustrating as social media can be, we're able to share with so many more people than we would if we were just seeing people one-on-one in private practice.
Absolutely.
So
that makes me even more just I don't know, my heart softened even more, as if it already was so excited about the work that you do, just knowing that story behind it has an actual person,
Yeah.
Real pinpoint to where the drive and the passion really came from.
but as another person that came along in your journey, literally through Instagram, which it's
Yeah.
interesting that you mentioned that, because as a business owner, and a lot of the women that are listening to the podcast and watching, they are struggling with, do I do Instagram? Do I not? And the truth is that you figured out your way and you've created an incredibly successful brand and business, and Instagram is part of that, right? And it's been part of it for me. And there's amazing things that I've been connected to. And when I was a younger mom, and my oldest one is 13, I didn't have access to the information that I learned when my now almost 8-year-old, I learned how to do baby-led weaning with her from you guys. And that was literally because of your social media presence.
Right.
And that was one of the biggest blessings. And the funniest story about that, I exclusively breastfed both of my kids, which is a part of my story, but not everyone's story that interacts with you. You guys work with all kinds of moms that choose to feed any way they choose to feed their children. One of your biggest mantras around that, I won't say it right, but you'll say it the way that you talk about, what is the phrase? Fed is best, I think.
Well, and I think fed is best came actually that we did not coin that phrase, but
No.
but your breastfeeding only works if it works for both mom and baby, and everyone
Absolutely.
has to do what they need to do, and every baby has to eat.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when I was on that journey with both of my kids, it looked very different. Same mom, two different kids. It looked wildly different for both kids. And my second one, when I started doing baby-led weaning with her, I was absolutely floored at how much I didn't know about feeding my child that you guys were able to teach me. And I will never forget the day when my parents were like, "What are you doing to that child?" And I was like, "No, it's safe. This is this is the infant's reflex." I learned how to trust the process of what was innately given to the child when they were learning to feed and wean themselves from their infancy over into table food. And that is not, I had never even heard of that and was never exposed to that until working with you guys. So I do appreciate so much the work that you have done. And I, of course, was like to my husband, Blaine, guess what I get to talk about on the show today? So excited. And just because, like, even the forks that we used were in the whole products, everything that we got, the trays that suction cup to the table, all of these things were because of what you guys were teaching, and I was eating it up as a young mom, and I was so excited about that. And I want every mom to know that there's an option. So talk to us a little bit about what that looks like. We are going to talk a little bit about this picky eating and how you guys are just brilliant at helping picky eaters, because I definitely have that in my life, with one of them, not the other. So let's have you talk a little bit about how moms can successfully start introducing solids to their kids, and then we can talk about the picky eating side of things.
Sure. Well, and thank you for saying all those kind of things. It's so fun to talk to people that have kind of been along the journey with us, So, because now there's so many resources, and I feel like in a lot of ways we were one of the accounts that paved the way for so much to kind of explode online about this topic, and not all good ways. I think parents are incredibly overwhelmed now. I think it's a lot of information out there, but to kind of ease people's minds or summarize what we teach for babies is kind of the idea that babies are born with the skills to feed themselves. Most babies, around 6 months, they're bringing their hands to their mouth. They're usually sitting with minimal assistance. They're interested in food. And we've always recommended for many years to start solid foods or start finger foods around 6 to 7 months, but we would say start purees at like 4 months. Now the guidance has pushed back that recommendation. So instead of starting at 4 months, we recommend starting solid foods at 6 months. Well, because we've always said you can start finger foods around that time, there's not really a need per se to start putting a spoon of pureed baby food in your baby's mouth if you don't want to. Most of us were spoon-fed as babies. We associate babies with baby food, like pureed baby food. But the concept of baby-led weaning just essentially means skipping baby food and going straight to self-feeding, which is a skill that your baby's going to use for life, and allow them to learn how to chew and swallow, and they will gag. But it's a really kind of fun and empowering process for the family because they get to eat the foods that your family eats and get to become familiar with the flavors of your table. And a lot of people that teach it didn't even do it with their own kids. I've done it with both of my kids. Again, I was kind of a weirdo. I mean, we have like a very, very rabid, like OG group of fans that were kind of with us from the beginning, and they did it, and they were big evangelists of it too.
Yeah.
But it didn't really take off until, really take off until the last 5 years or so. But baby-led weaning it can be really fun. It can be really empowering for the family. It's not, you don't have to do it if you don't want to. You don't have to do it 100% like that if you don't want to. But it is something that a lot of parents are embracing because it helps kids kind of integrate right away into the table, and you don't have to worry about spending all day Sunday making their food, and you just give them, it's so easy. You just give them the foods that you're eating. You don't have to do anything separate for them. That's the best part.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is what are the benefits? Like why do you promote this, and why do you think it's so beneficial for mom and baby to do this approach?
First and foremost, I know you've got a lot of people that have they already have older kids and maybe they're on their second or third baby listening potentially. It's easier. You don't have to buy specific, like baby bullets and everything to make for them. It also promotes family meals because if you're giving your baby the food that you're making for your own meal, you're more likely to sit with them and eat. Yeah. Also, it promotes family meals in a way that you're not focused on putting food in your baby's mouth while you should be eating your own food. You're letting them eat at the same time that you're eating. They're able to model you, and I really like it because it promotes not only, hand-eye coordination and independence around food, but it also allows your baby to replicate what they've been watching the whole time. They've been watching you eat. They know anyone that's listening that has a, 3, 4, 5-month-old knows they're starting to stare you down. They're looking at what you're putting in your mouth. They're looking at you like you've never fed them before. And getting really interested in what you're doing. And now you give them a chance to do the same thing. They're replicating it. You put food on a loaded spoon or a fork, they get to put it in their own mouth just like you do. Yeah. You put food down on the tray and they get to pick it up and taste it just like you do. So I like that it's kind of the continuation of you've allowed them you're feeding them on demand, watching their cues, you're being responsive to what they're showing you that they need. And now you're also allowing them to eat the right amount of food that feels good to their bodies. You're not trying to make them finish a jar. You're not in charge of what foods they're trying first. You're literally offering the food and they're deciding whether or not to eat it and how much. And that's the kind of premise that we recommend for as they grow up. It's just a continuation of being responsive and allowing your child to listen to their body, just like you've always been doing, just like you hope to continue to do.
Yeah, I'm so curious if you think that starting this young has any kind of impact on whether or not your kids are picky eaters or are not picky eaters.
So it's a great question. I think picky eating is incredibly complicated, and I think there is some evidence to suggest that it can reduce the risk of picky eating. However, I feel like it's normal for toddlers to become picky about food. It's a very dramatic shift for many, many kids. Like they ate everything and then suddenly they don't want anything. And it's really frustrating. And when they were eating all the things, you're like, I'm amazing. I knew that this didn't have to be that hard. Everyone's saying that, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that was humbling. Yep, I see what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. It's normal development for kids to become picky about food. They suspect that it has to do with a biological protective mechanism that prevents kids from wandering into the forest and eating a poisonous berry kind of thing. Like if they were really open-minded about eating all the things in toddlerhood, then they could hurt and harm themselves. So it's hardwired into many kids to not be super adventurous at that age. Yeah. And so what I do like about baby-led weaning, because it's hard for me to answer that question because I don't think we have some data that suggests that it can. I just don't want people to feel like, oh my gosh, my kid is doomed because I didn't do it. What's most important is, are you offering a wide variety of foods? Are you having meals together as often as you can? Are you continuing to offer foods even if your kid doesn't eat them? Yes, always have one food on the plate, but there's so many factors that go into picky eating and how we respond to it, that even if you didn't do baby-led weaning, you can still, head off picky eating as they get older. And in some cases, picky eating is very extreme and can be no matter what you do, your kid's going to be incredibly picky. And at that point, parents need extra support and they need feeding therapy.
Yeah. So I want to talk about that because I literally have one of my employees that works for me has a child that is so picky. And I have other friends that have this exact same scenario, and it causes major relationship problems. It causes disciplinary problems. It causes a rift in the home. It causes actual life traumatic problems for everyone in the family, not just the child, but the parent. And it's like a big problem. And there are people right now that are like, Lord help me, she's speaking my language. There's somebody that's like, this is debilitating. Then there's families like me where I was like, look, I did it all. I'm so good. My child is not a picky eater. And then she doesn't want to eat anything that I've been feeding her forever. And that totally happened to me. It didn't happen with my oldest one. Like, I can't wait to travel the world with her. She literally will try oysters when we go out. Like, she will try anything still. And the youngest one is like, nope, not going to do it. And there are so many misconceptions and myths out there about what to do. And you guys, I would point everybody to you guys as, the pioneers of what is a really good foundation. So obviously there's this extreme group of people, but what's the starting point for anyone that's experiencing a hard time with picky eaters? What direction would you point them in just to get started?
That's a great question. I do want to mention that if your child, there's a few things to look out for that would kind of warrant that your kid might need additional therapy, or feeding therapy. If your child eats fewer than 20 total foods, that's usually a guideline that we use to say that feeding therapy might be warranted. And you're like, oh, wait a minute. When I say 20 total foods, I mean Cheerios is one food and Honey Nut Cheerios is a second food. So when you look at that, you might think, oh, wait, no, they do eat, 20 total foods. But in general, if picky eating is causing significant strain and stress to your family, just as you described, if it's becoming, disciplinary issue, a family like emotional issue, if you're getting in fights about this, if this is causing a major rift at the table, you can't go out to eat, you can't go to other people's houses because this is so disruptive, that is an indicator that it's time for therapy.
Yeah.
That there are so many things that are out of your control when it comes to how kids eat. And that's what people don't realize. A child that is experiencing sensory issues, asking them to eat certain foods could feel like them having to chew on glass.
Yeah.
And they don't perceive things correctly in their mouth. Mm-hmm. Of course, they're not going to eat it because it hurts or it feels wrong. Yeah. And so if you're experiencing very significant picky eating, if you're like, this is traumatic to our family, this is causing significant strain and stress to us, talk to your doctor. Please ask for a referral for feeding therapy. Oftentimes you can even just seek it out yourself. Speech therapists and occupational therapists are usually the ones that do feeding therapy. Make sure they're very well trained in feeding therapy. If you ask in your local communities, if you ask your doctor, you might find somebody that they recommend. You can also go to feedingmatters.org and they have like an assessment that can help you understand whether or not you need more help. So that's kind of for that group of people. Like there are definitely some listeners right now that are experiencing that. And I don't want you to think that like, oh, I'll just do a whole bunch of stuff at home. That's usually not sufficient if your child is experiencing oral, motor, or sensory issues. You need more help. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just like it's not a moral failing. It's literally like a difference in how their body is working, just like a child needing glasses. It's not a moral failing if your child needs glasses.
Yeah. And I don't think people realize that kind of therapy and help is even or available.
Yep. And I didn't either. When I met my business partner, 14 years ago, whatever it was now, I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. I had no idea that feeding therapy even existed. And so it's a field that has really become a lot more prominent now, especially mainstream. I feel like we've done a small part to get it out there as well ourselves and for people to be aware that it's something available to parents, but it can make a massive, massive difference. So back to your actual question about like, where do you start? It really kind of starts with the mindset shift that it is not your job to get your child to eat. Mm-hmm. It is your job to let your child eat. And that's a quote from Jenny McLaughlin, who's a really well-known feeding therapist. And I just thought it was brilliant. It's not your job to make them eat. It's not your job to be responsible for every single bite that goes into their mouth. It's your job to set the stage for them to be successful with food. And when we have a tight control over what our kids and how our kids eat, they're going to push back. Yeah. And you've probably seen this with your own child. The more we try to get them to do something, the more difficult it becomes. So some kind of baseline things that can help families. First of all, if your child's old enough to understand that you might be shifting things or doing things differently, like say you have your 8-year-old at home and so you have been kind of forcing them or making them take certain bites of food or bribing them to take bites of food, you can say something like, hey, I know that meals might have been stressful for us lately. And I know that there's been some frustration on my end because I want you to eat and I want you to have, get enough nutrition for your body. And I know on your end, you also might not like these foods and it feels stressful to you. Let's work on that. We're going to change that. We're going to change how this works. I'm going to serve the food and you're going to decide whether or not you want to eat it. I'd love you to try something if you haven't before, but you're not required to. And we're going to work on this together. And sometimes approaching it from the perspective of your child and realizing like they're not doing this to be an a-hole. Like they're not. They're struggling.
Yeah.
They're struggling. It feels like a personal attack when somebody doesn't eat our food because we were kind of taught to be polite. You need to try what was served to you.
Yeah.
But it's not personal. It's biological. It's developmental. So that mindset shift and kind of realizing that your child's not out to get you oftentimes can help you soften your heart a bit about how to approach this. And that makes, I think, everything a lot easier because you're starting to realize like, this isn't a war. This isn't me versus them.
Yeah.
We're doing this together. We're approaching this curiously and gently together, and it can really make the experience better for both of you.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things I know that has happened in our household is just, and so many other moms that I've talked to, is the fear that my kid's never going to eat anything other than mac and cheese or pizza or whatever the kid's favorite thing is, right? And
right.
My husband specifically had a nephew that when he was, very involved in his nieces and nephews' lives, and every time they went somewhere, the mom had to bring this specific meal for the child. And now that he's raising our kids together, he was like, that can never happen, And so there's a lot of moms too with, I think, a genuine fear of like, is my kid being nourished? Like, are they getting the things that they need because they're so selective about what they eat? So obviously you're on the other side of this with so many families. What is the light at the end of the tunnel for the kids that are transitioning their way through these years? How can we encourage them other than obviously setting the stage, but is there anything else that you would recommend that we do? And does it get better for the moms that are in the thick of it right now?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I have so many thoughts about this. These are great questions. First and foremost, picky eating tends to ease up around 7 or 8. And I know that sounds like a long time when you're a 4-year-old, but it does come quickly. And then you get like hormones kicking in and you get peer pressure kicking in. And now, I think partially because of what I do, my kids' friends are like, Megan, I'm going to come over and I'm going to eat blah, blah, blah. I've never had it before, but I really want to eat it there. I think they're kind of trying to show off, but it's this funny, weird social dynamic that takes over as they get older. They don't want to miss out. They don't want to go somewhere and not be able to try something. And you have no idea how many kids have tried things for me without me asking them to, just because they want to be part of the experience. Yeah. We're talking oysters. We're talking like weird salads, things that my daughter's best friend hates eggs. And every time she comes over, she's like, I'm just going to try them. Like, you don't have to if you don't want to. There's this funny, it's a combination of like fast growth that happens, in the preteen years and hunger hormones that kick in because of all those hormonal changes and that social dynamic that make it just a lot easier for kids. And then we actually we go over the hump and now they're like ravenous beasts that we cannot feed fast enough. And you probably remember that as a teenager. I remember coming home in middle school and eating like 3 bowls of cereal and feeling starving after that.
It's my 13-year-old right now. Like we just went to the staycation, actually the Scottsdale Princess at Fairmont over there. Yeah. And I'm like, you just ate more than your dad. Like,
Yeah.
what is actually happening? She
Yeah.
just turned 13 and it's like, oh my gosh.
Yep.
That was like a boy thing, but no, it's definitely
No,
happening.
it's a girl thing too. And girls put on, 40 to 50 pounds easily in puberty. And if you think about that, like how much energy that requires to gain that much weight and to gain that much height. And, for many girls and boys, it's a lot of food. They're going to have to eat a lot of food. So all of this complaining that we do when they're toddlers, then we're like, we get to the teenage years and we're like, oh, shoot, maybe I shouldn't have complained so much that they didn't eat that much.
It's coming for you.
Yeah, it's just going to be the opposite. Yeah, but to ease people's mind when they're going through it, if I assess a toddler's diet and they're eating like one or two vegetables kind of consistently, they're eating all the fruits because most toddlers love all the fruits. They're eating dairy foods, cheese, yogurt, maybe they're drinking some milk, and they're eating maybe a few bites of meat, chicken, whatever, and they're eating the grain foods, hopefully a few whole grains thrown in there. That is totally typical, totally normal. They're meeting their needs.
Yeah. Yeah.
We also obviously look at like their growth, which annoyingly enough, most kids are growing just fine, even on a completely picky diet. It's something that parents are like, every time they go, their doctor's like, they're perfectly healthy and everything's great. And I swear to God, they exist on air, but they are eating. One thing, that can ease parents' mind is to offer a multivitamin if it's something that's stressing you out. If you're just like, if offering a multivitamin is going to get you to lay off the pressure, it might be a good thing for you. It's not required necessarily, but I think for a lot of parents, it feels like a nice safeguard. We have a supplement guide with like a whole bunch. It's just a blog post if you want to check it out on feedinglittles.com, but a whole bunch of different products. One thing to consider nutritionally that most kids don't get enough of is vitamin D. That is something that we do recommend supplementing with. Obviously, kids should be outside and getting sunlight, but us Arizonans know it's actually hard. We don't want them outside all the time because they will get sunburned.
I know.
Yeah. So vitamin D, 70% of US kids are deficient. So it's recommended to give a vitamin D supplement of 600 IUs. It doesn't stop when they're, we give 400 IUs in infancy and then everyone's like, oh, we don't suddenly need it anymore. That's not true. Milk does not provide enough vitamin D. They would have to drink 48 ounces or 6 cups of milk, which is too much milk for any toddler or kid to have an appetite for food. So once they turn 1, we recommend bumping that up to 600 IUs. And then again, if you're feeling stressed, if you're like, I hate this picky eating stuff, this is so annoying to me, and you want to offer a multivitamin that can help ease your mind, that might be another option. But oftentimes when I talk to parents, their kids actually eating a lot more diverse than they realize. They're just not eating what they ate as a baby. They're not pounding. I mean, my daughter ate sardines out of the can.
Yeah, seriously.
Like everything. And she actually did that all the way till like age 3 or 4. And I was like, oh, this is going to hit me hard. Like at some point it's going to happen. And she definitely she has not touched fish since then.
Yeah.
And I just, we're still working on it. It's just, she takes a fish oil supplement. Don't tell her that, but,
she doesn't know.
She knows it's an omega-3. We call it an omega-3 in our home. Yes. But ever since she became a Little Mermaid fan, she has not touched fish. So,
oh my gosh,
but it's one of those things where it is normal. It is normal for kids to not like food like that. When we make it a stress, we make it a big point of contention. And I know again, it oftentimes happens with dads, and it's modeled in their family and the generations before that. Like, you must eat your food. It's disrespectful to not eat it. Do you know how hard it worked to get the food on the table? Do you know how hard your mom worked to make the food, however the dynamic is in your family? It feels disrespectful. It feels like a slap in the face when kids don't eat. And again, they're not doing that because they're trying to be jerks or disrespectful. Yeah. And that's what we have to disassociate. It's not an issue of like, I hate my parents, thus I'm going to not eat food. It's more about the food experience. Yeah. Right. And kids want to please us. They want to do well. They want us to be happy with how they ate. They just sometimes can't get over whatever is keeping them from eating successfully.
Yeah, no, I love so much about that because I'll say this one thing, and then we need to talk about the book. We need to talk about how great the book is.
Oh, thank you.
Second. But, we have changed the language to say the disrespect is the attitude. when we set the plate down and you say, ugh, I don't like that. It's like, how can we change our language around thank you for preparing me this meal? Because there is always at least one or two things that you do actually love on your plate. We don't need to throw nasty words and hateful eye rolls at mom because you put a green bean on your plate. God forbid.
How dare you?
How dare you?
And
serve me this.
I think that's absolutely the distinction. It's the attitude and it's the language that we use, and it can start really young. And I emphasize this so heavily because I think we want to teach our kids not to yuck on someone's yum. Because that's what happens in school. Kids open up a lunchbox full of different foods, whether it's different foods culturally or different foods just because of what their family serves. And kids will make, nasty faces and say mean things about it. And to me, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Especially for a kid maybe who just emigrated here and they're eating the foods that they have always grown up eating. And suddenly those foods aren't good enough. And most people that are like first generation Americans have what they call a lunchbox moment where they remember somebody making comments about what they ate. Now, ironically, all of us would probably want to eat what was in their lunchbox now. Like, give me that over the bologna that I had to have 50,000 times when, growing up. I would much prefer like everything that you were eating, but we don't see that when we're kids, and anything different we make fun of. And, it's been something that I've been very, very passionate about for so many reasons to kind of help parents learn, like, it is okay for your kid to not like food, but we have to teach them not to yuck on somebody else's yum. You have to have the duality though. If you're telling kids that they have to eat something and forcing them to eat it, you can't have the don't yuck on someone's yum at the same time, because they have anxiety if they're feeling forced to eat it. And of course they're going to have a big response. When kids know that they don't have to eat something, it's easier for them to say, no, thank you, not for me.
Yeah.
Versus this big, like, oh gosh, I'm anxious about that because they're going to make me eat it. So they go together. We have to make sure that we're not forcing them to eat something. And then it's easier for them to say, no, thank you, not for me. And my kids even know, they'll look at me and go, not for me, thank you. I'm still learning about that, thank you. Like, they know. But I respect it. I don't make them eat it.
I'm going to keep that language. I'm still learning about that. That's a great one, because my biggest thing is we can't use the language, I don't like that, when we've never tried that. So we can't use that language, but that is a good replacement for us right now.
Yeah. Still learning.
Still learning about that.
Not for me. We use not for me a lot. Happy for you. Glad you like it. Not for me.
And that, like, I don't know why that like made me a little misty. My almost 8-year-old goes to a Montessori school. And so they unpack their food out of their lunchbox and put it on glass plates, and and they have a full kitchen, and like lunch is a thing. It's a part of the curriculum. And so there's conversation about lunch boxes and what people had to eat all the time. And the variety of cultures in that classroom have already been brought up. And I'm like, have I prepared my child with the language to not yuck on someone else's yum? I'm just like sitting here thinking, I don't think I have. We're doing that immediately.
Yeah. Well, and I would assume too in that classroom, because of the dynamic, they would probably be talking about that. Hopefully. There's some great children's books. There's one called The Invisible Boy, which isn't exactly related to that, but it's kind of about a kid that is not really seen. He's kind of invisible at school. And it's actually heartbreaking, but it's a great book about how we treat others. And when my daughter started getting her lunch made fun of when she was in kindergarten, I actually sent it I talked to her teacher and I said, can I send this book in? And she's like, absolutely. And she was all fired up about it. She was like, absolutely not. This does not happen in our classroom. And it was a nice tool, but there's a lot of great books about Carla's sandwich, and there's tons and tons of children's books about this. So if you're worried about that, the opportunity can come up just even through reading the book, or just, having a talk with them. Like, how would you feel?
Yeah, absolutely.
That happened to you, right? Yep. But now it's funny that my kids are older, because people ask me sometimes, oh, you pack these lunches with variety, and don't your kids get made fun of? There were a few times when they were younger that people would say, oh, what is that? Or, oh, I don't know if I like that. And again, I've done this for both my kids. I would send in a book, I'd talk to the teacher, and it's kind of stopped. As they've gotten older now, their lunches get fully stolen. The kids are actually trying to eat their lunches, trying to, not from a mean way, but people will be like, are you done? Are you done yet? Can I have
that looks so good. It looks like real food. Oh my gosh.
So now it's like completely the opposite. And I've had to like talk to the teachers, like, can you help make sure that people aren't, going through their lunch bags and trying to steal their lunches?
So the topic of lunches is perfect because your book is the most colorful, vibrant opportunity for us as moms to get variety in our kids' lunch boxes whenever we're packing lunches, and even for me just at home making lunches whenever my kids are here. So can you share with us your book and the heart behind it?
It's actually so exciting because the book came out last year, and now that we're talking back to school, I get to talk about it again, but it's actually here and people can get it. Like you could literally probably have it in your hands tonight or tomorrow, depending on the retailer that you get it from. But it's called Feeding Littles Lunches. It's actually a #1 New York Times bestseller. It kind of broke the mold because I knew from the start of like the very beginning of this idea, I was like, this will smash. Like this is going to be something people want. And it was actually kind of hard to convince publishers of like, really? But lunchbox books don't usually do very well. And I'm like, well, those are all recipe books. Nobody wants recipes. People want pictures and ideas. We're not cooking. Yeah. There is not a single recipe in this book. Even when we say like chicken salad, we say, buy the chicken salad. If you would like to make your own, go online and look at one of the millions of recipes available there. Yeah. The point is that this is not recipes. It's all inspiration. And there are 75 plus ideas with full page photos. Yep. So the cool thing is that the book has turned into a tool for so many families because they use it with their kids. Like my little niece loves it. She's like 3 and she sits every week on Sunday and she goes through and she points to what she wants. And you don't necessarily need to use even all the lunch ideas together. You could use this, protein from this one and this vegetable from this one, but it follows our lunchbox or our Feeding Littles lunch formula, if you will. So we recommend a carbohydrate source, a protein, a vegetable, a fruit, and then a dessert, a chip or a dip, or you could do all of those if you wanted, but something kind of fun, all like at every lunch if you can. So you're getting a balance, you're getting multiple food groups. It takes the pressure off of like, can I serve a snack type lunch? Or, my kid doesn't like sandwiches. Now what? It allows you to kind of think outside the box for lunches and offer variety and an adequate lunch without making Pinterest worthy, totally perfect, gorgeous, things that just aren't realistic. Like even just talking about it, I always have to preface like, there are no eyeballs, candy eyeballs. There are no cutesy shapes. We have one image of a cookie cutter where we were like, okay, I know we said no shapes, but if you wanted to use a cookie cutter, sometimes it helps with a kid of picky eating. They might eat it from a cookie cutter, if it's shaped like a puppy dog, and it's not really any harder than cutting it with a knife. But like we're not spelling out their names. We're not using like tweezers to put things in. There's just so much ridiculous content online about lunches that we don't prescribe to. Like it's just not realistic for most families, and we're not going to do it. So this is all easy stuff. It's either utilizing things that are already pre-made or things that you can literally buy and throw in the lunch, or utilizing leftovers because you already made them at home, you already cooked it. Now we can just throw it in the lunchbox. Yep.
This is magical. One of the #1 top download episodes that we have is around what do I make for lunches? What do I make for dinners? And so they're absolutely going to eat this up. And the reason why I love it so much is one of the things that I talk about most whenever I'm teaching moms about how to manage their home and a system for their home is get your kids involved in everything that you do. This is not a separate, I'm mom and I cook and I clean and then I have to go over here and parent. Like it's the same thing.
Right.
Moms sometimes don't know how to connect those two things together very well. And this is a perfect tool. I feel like books are one of the best tools that I've ever used to connect in that way. So it's so great to hear of a different resource that you mentioned. But this is even better because one of the meal planning systems that I teach is heavily kind of focused around dinner, but I have an actual folder in my Instagram of other people showing their Benko boxes and their lunches because it's just the ideas sometimes. And so what a beautiful opportunity for something tangible that your kids can use. Open it up. Your publisher should have just asked moms and they all would have been like, yes.
Well, unfortunately, the publisher that we ended up going through was she was just like a super fan about it from the very beginning. And our editor was like, like she believed in it from the very beginning, which was amazing. And that's really what I think shines through in the book. All of us were so passionate about making this something that was a realistic, tangible tool. There are Oreos in this book. There are real snacks and snacky foods that you would buy in the grocery store. There are, it's such a wide variety. There's lunches without desserts because it's for 18 months through 18 years. So the idea is that you look through it with your kid and you take the inspiration and you modify it for your child's age. There's allergy modifications for all top 9 allergies for every single one. There's picky eater modifications, toddler safety tips for every single one. I can't even how to make this even easier with we have a hard-boiled egg in here, but you could buy a hard-boiled egg already hard-boiled if you don't want to make it at home, So the whole point is to kind of utilize it for what works for you. And to me, the systems that are so important that kind of help with packing lunches are can my kids help out with this? Can they look through this and give me ideas? Can they actually know how to assemble a lunch themselves? Because there's sometimes when I do pack it for them often, but they help. They help. And they help clean out their lunch boxes as they've gotten older. And I love that there's, in their heads now, they have this formula going. They know I need a vegetable or I need a fruit. It's just natural to them because they see it all the time. And it makes it so much easier for all of us because we don't have to second guess when my husband packs a lunch, when my parents pack a lunch. Everyone knows okay, we got the starch, we got the, protein, a fruit, a vegetable. We know that those are kind of the minimums. It just kind of lessens the mental load there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. If you guys have been in my community for a while, you just heard her speak everything that I have been uttering because this is where I learned it. This is where I learned how to do these things for my kids, and it's become a staple part of making mealtime easier. Please tell everybody, Megan, where they can get your book, where they can access, obviously, your blog, but you have courses for moms as well. Where can they find you?
Absolutely. So we're at feedinglittles.com and at Feeding Littles on all of the social channels. Our book is available on major retailers and also mom and pop books. We just recommend going to feedinglittles.com and you can see all of our different retailers to find that.
Yeah. Well, it was so great to have you. I am personally really appreciative of your work, and I know my audience and all my listeners will be too.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And I hope that, I think the work that you do is really important because I think we never feel like we're good enough. Mm-hmm. As moms, we just never feel like it's enough. We're doing enough. And I love that what you teach about systems and prioritizing what's most important and putting things in place to make us have space for what's most important. I think that helps us feel like we're never going to feel enough, but at least it helps us feel like we're doing as much as we can.
Yeah, it does.
Get there.
At the end of the day, it feels like what we did was for something and worth something.
Yes.
And that becomes something very tangible to a woman when she feels like she understands that there is a tangible system in place and she knows how to plug herself into it. And those guardrails, sometimes, when we go bowling, those bumper rails make the game way more successful for
it.
I
love that. So thank you for doing that for your audience and for moms everywhere, because I think we all need that support. We feel like we're flailing otherwise.
We do. Absolutely. Thanks so much.
Thank you.